Can you imagine contracting HIV and getting pregnant from a weekend fling? It happened to a friend of mine. Her name's Tara.
She pulled out this brown folder and she opened it and shook her head. So I was like, oh no. And she took me into this room, and man, if this couch that she put me on could talk, I'm sure it would have lots of stories. So she said that my test came back positive. And at first I was like, okay, positive's good, right? And one day we went to a party and I met this guy, blonde hair, blue eyes, he seemed all right. So called the blonde hair, blue-eyed guy up, and he came over for a weekend and we had sex from like a Friday to a Sunday. So I go to work on Monday and I start kind of getting these flu-like symptoms and I'm really not feeling good. And the guy, the guy that we hung out for that weekend, he would just kind of pop back up in my lobby. It wasn't someone I really cared to keep in touch with. It was just that kind of, you know, hopefully would have been just a weekend thing. So every day I'd come back and he'd be sitting in my lobby and I'd always have to, you know, try to get around back or how can I sneak around him. And then one day I'm there and he comes in. I'm like walking in and he's in the lobby and he's like, I have to tell you something. I'm like, what? He's like, I'm positive. I said, you're positive about what? He said, no, I'm HIV positive. I can't even tell you what that's like. I go into this clinic and I meet this woman and she asks me all these questions. And it was like those really personal kind of girl talk questions, right? So she asks me about sex toys and how I clean them and if I share them and how many partners I've had. And I didn't know the right answer, how to pass this test. I thought it was just a blood test, but it, you know, was a little bit more. So I was like, okay, maybe I came really, really close. Maybe the gun was just loaded and you know, I survived it, but no. So, so it came back came back positive, which was a negative thing because that meant that I was living with HIV. So I started crying. I felt like something was in me. I felt dirty. I didn't understand. I felt powerless. And like weeks went by and I was feeling really tired. Like I hadn't slept, like tired. I could fall asleep just like that. And everything, like everything I smelt was really heightened, so it made me nauseous. And I knew something was wrong. I just knew it. So I thought maybe my HIV turned to AIDS really quickly and this was it. And I hadn't even told my parents yet. I told like one friend. And so I went and I told her, I said, you know, I'm not feeling good. I'm really, really tired. Everything makes me feel nauseous. I think my HIV turned to AIDS. She's like, really? I was like, okay, well, I don't know. So she has me pee in this cup and she puts in this little strip and 2 blue lines come up and she's like, oh my gosh, you're pregnant? And I said, are you kidding me? So during this time, I think of everything. I'm like, okay, maybe I could give my child up for adoption. Like, I don't know, maybe like Angelina and Brad were adopting at that time, you know, little AIDS orphans. I was like, hey, that could work. So I had to go get the ultrasound to find out exactly how pregnant I really was. So when I went into the ultrasound and, you know, you hear that heartbeat, well, I don't know if you know, but it's pretty cool. And that was my kind of Papa Don't Preach moment. I was like, I'm keeping this baby. This is going to be okay. So I get this little picture, the little dot in it, and I'm like, all right. So my parents were in town and we decided to go for lunch. It was a public area. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to tell them. And they weren't naive, but I was telling them a lot. You know, I had sex out of wedlock because they're super Catholic. And I had sex and we didn't use a condom. And I'm pregnant. And oh yeah, I got, you know, the golden STD. So I was telling them a lot. And I told them really quickly. And they handled it a lot better than I think anyone could expect. And I showed them this picture of my little dot of a baby, and I think they were quite impressed with all the stuff I had done. And then April 21st, I gave birth to a 7-pound, 11-ounce child. So they took the baby away right away, and they gave the child all these tests, and you know, I was like, okay. And so I go in and I meet this doctor, and he was able to tell me that my child's HIV negative, which was awesome. So things kind of sort of got a little bit more normal then. So I decided to start going out and educating people on HIV. So I worked with the Speakers Bureau and we'd go out to schools and I don't know, we'd meet up with different groups like new immigrants or people who've been in shelters, just kind of educating them, what HIV is, how it can happen to everyone, how it doesn't discriminate. So I get to meet all these amazing people from all different walks of life. And we'd probably never meet in any other way, but we have that huge, huge secret that we're living with HIV. So that's my story.
That is a remarkable story.
Thank you.
Can you take me back to, and this might be difficult, but this is something that I think about. Can you take us back to when they first said you're HIV positive? What that was like?
It's like when you're picked on in class, like in that big, huge classroom, and you don't know the answer and you turn beet red. It's like that times 10, but your whole body is just hot. And yeah, I felt powerless and unreal. Like it was a very unreal experience.
Is your son the son of the gentleman you slept with?
Yes, he is, yes.
Are you in contact with that guy?
No, he died of AIDS actually in November of 2014. Yeah, 2014, just recently. But I mean, 36 years old, dying of AIDS in Toronto is a hard thing. It's a really hard thing. So I think he had a lot more going on.
Did he know about the baby thing?
Yes. So he had met his son before, and he knew about the baby thing, but it just wasn't a priority for him. As the years have unfolded, I've realized that I am a pretty tough person. I can handle a lot. So I've been able to learn that about myself. And I think because I've been able to meet so many people from different walks of life, it's definitely softened me as a person more. And I've gotten to know people that maybe I would have just judged real quick because, I didn't know or whatever. So now I'm able to meet people, and even though we're completely different, we still have that one big common thing, and that's HIV.
So now, how do you deal with it medically?
So it's just one pill a day, and I think most of the side effects that I deal with is they're more physical. The pills affect women differently than they do men, and but yeah, and then I've met a lot of people just like me.
So when you meet someone in your date, do you date?
I do, yes.
And when you meet someone and you're dating, at what point do you decide to tell them?
Well, there's little keywords, right? There's little things about them. So I'm able to tell them where I work. And then I get that, oh, it's great that you work with those people. So you kind of have to feel it out. And there's just little things. And then, yeah, I mean, I've been with someone now for almost 2 years. And so I remember it must have been 3 or 4 dates, and we had this really hot makeup session, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to tell him. So I had a friend on the phone with me, and I had a friend come over to my house, and I met him in a public place, and I told him, and I was really nervous, and you don't know, because they can react positive and then go home and be like, what? Or they could be like, you're crazy, and then say, okay. So you just don't know how they react. And I gave him a few websites. I'm like, go check it out, think about it, call me, please. And he did, and it worked out. So I was pretty lucky. But yeah. So there's a lot more pressure on it than just, there's no other STD that you can be criminalized for.
Yeah.
And then when you're criminalized for this, you're labeled as a registered sex offender, which is
right.
A real heavy title on top of HIV, living with HIV.
Right.
So yeah.
I have sex every once in a while, and sometimes I don't use protection. And I'd wonder what you would say to me or anyone in our community who doesn't.
You're taking a risk. You're taking a risk on a lot of things. I think when I was so mad at this person doing this to me, and then I had to really kind of think about it. Did I demand this person to wear a condom? Not the whole time. So where's my responsibility in it? And you're taking a risk. HIV is not the only STD out there, but without using a condom or protecting yourself. And if you look at our cell phones, and we put covers on our cell phones and our iPads, and special stuff so we don't bang those up, but we don't take care of ourselves. So it's not a disease that discriminates at all. It's not a black disease, a white disease, and all you need is a barrier. It's a condom, and a condom's just, that's it.
Tara, Jewal, thank you so much. And this is another episode of Who We Are, and the question we always ask is, who are you? Thank you. Thank you so much.
We think these stories and conversations are really important to share, and so if you do too, we'd love for you to like the video, share the video, subscribe to our channel, and check out our other interviews, because it's who we are. Thanks for watching.